It all started with one reindeer, a small light-up Rudolph on my front lawn, blinking every few seconds. My daughter found it on clearance last year. Just one decoration. That's all it took for HOA Karen to march over like she owned the place. "You're breaking HOA Rule 14, Section C," she said, waving a paper like it was the law. "No decorations before December 10th. It was December 3rd, just 7 days early. I took a sip of my cocoa and smiled. Looks like Rudolph showed up early. Karen looked like she swallowed a lemon. "This is your official warning. If you don't take it down, it's a $50 fine." I blinked. $50 for one reindeer? "Per decoration," she snapped. That's when I realized it wasn't about rules. It was about control. The HOA had their own catalog of overpriced holiday stuff, and if you didn't buy from them, they came after you. So I had an idea. By the weekend, my yard had a giant blow-up Santa on a flamingo, 1,500 flashing lights synced to Mariah Carey, and a glowing nativity scene on my roof. It was a full-blown light show. Karen went nuts. She stood outside yelling at my snowman. I think she even told it to get off her lawn. Then came the fines. Every day. Dozens of letters. I started taping them up in my garage like Christmas wallpaper. The HOA said I was ruining the look of the neighborhood. Meanwhile, my neighbor had a huge inflatable Grinch flipping people off, but he bought it from their catalog, so it was approved. Karen got worse. She put a red final notice of eviction on my mailbox, like she was the sheriff or something. But then she took it too far. The HOA filed a real complaint in court, said I was breaking rules, being a public problem. They wanted me kicked out before Christmas. That's when they messed with the wrong person. See, what Karen didn't know was I wasn't just a guy with Christmas lights. I had a secret they weren't ready for. I'm not just your average guy with a few blinking lights and a grudge. I'm the person the HOA should have Googled before starting this war. See, when I'm not sipping cocoa and untangling Christmas lights, I'm sitting in meetings with city planners, zoning boards, and real estate investors. Why? Because I don't just live here. I own the land this neighborhood was built on. No, really. I bought the original lots years ago through a trust, just never told anyone. The HOA? They leased the land from a holding company. Guess who runs the holding company? That's right, me. So while Karen and her little clipboard gang were busy stacking fines, I was busy pulling property records and checking the lease terms. Found out the HOA's charter expires next year unless all landowners sign to renew. And surprise, they need my signature. I didn't say a word yet, just waited. Karen kept pushing. She brought cops over, claiming my lights were a fire hazard. One of the officers took selfies with my Santa flamingo. The next morning, Karen called child services over the disruptive environment. That's when my daughter cried, and something in me snapped. I called my lawyer. Within 48 hours, we drafted a new contract for the HOA, a friendly update to their lease renewal. It basically said, 1, they pay triple rent. 2, any homeowner complaints must go through me. 3, I get final say on all neighborhood rule changes. 4, no more fines without my approval. 5, all holiday decorations, no matter how insane, are officially allowed. I handed the new contract to Karen during an HOA meeting. She laughed at first. "This is a joke." I leaned in. "So is your power." She didn't laugh after that. She took it to her lawyer. Her face when she found out it was all real? Priceless. Next week, the HOA tried calling an emergency vote to remove me from the board. But plot twist, I was never on the board. I was their landlord. And now they had two options: sign the new lease or dissolve the HOA completely. Karen nearly popped a blood vessel, but she wasn't done fighting. Not yet. She had one more dirty move up her sleeve, and I was more than ready. Karen came back swinging. After the lease bomb I dropped, she vanished for a few days. Quiet. Too quiet. I knew she was planning something. Then boom, legal notice on my door. Karen and the HOA filed a motion claiming the land lease was fraudulent and that I had manipulated ownership records. Now that was funny. I called my lawyer again. We laughed for a full 2 minutes. Every record was legit, every form stamped, every dotted line signed years ago. Karen just never did her homework. Still, the case was heading to court. She dragged the whole HOA into it. Karen even made t-shirts that said, "Protect our neighborhood," like this was some dramatic Netflix series. She had her little HOA army picketing in front of my house, right under my 20-foot candy cane archway. So I did what any petty landlord would do. I turned off the HOA office's power. That's right, the community center where Karen held her meetings, it sat on my land. Power account in my name. One phone call, and poof, darkness. No lights, no coffee machine, no printer. Karen had to run her next meeting in the parking lot with a bullhorn while sitting on a folding chair. I watched from my porch with hot cocoa and popcorn. But Karen, she didn't give up. She showed up in court with binders full of nonsense, printed out Facebook comments, grainy photos of my decorations, even a petition signed by 12 angry neighbors, 7 of whom later apologized and asked for selfies. The judge flipped through the pages, then looked at me. "Mr. Harris," he said, "do you in fact own the land?" I handed over the documents, not copies, the originals, with every signature, deed, and record from the county office. The judge didn't even blink. Case dismissed. Karen stood there like she'd just been hit by a snowplow. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again like a confused goldfish. Her lawyer just packed up and left. After court, I made an announcement. Starting next week, I was raising the HOA's land rent by 200%. Oh, and any home that wanted to stay under HOA control had to sign an individual lease directly with me. Within days, over half the neighborhood opted out. Karen's power vanished overnight. No board, no authority, no rules. She lost her army, she lost her clubhouse, she even lost her voice when she tried to argue at the next community event and got told to sit down, light lady. But her real punishment? That was coming. Because I had one final move, and it was going to leave her with no choice but to pay me every single month, even on holidays. 1 month later, the HOA was basically a ghost. No meetings, no memos, no fake fines taped to mailboxes. People started decorating however they wanted. Massive light shows, snow machines, even a neighbor with a singing penguin choir in the yard. It was pure chaos. Beautiful chaos. And Karen? She stayed quiet, real quiet, until she tried one last move. She went around door to door, claiming I was illegally extorting the neighborhood and that she was rebuilding a better HOA. She had a clipboard again asking for signatures to reform the community rules. Only problem? Every house she knocked on was now paying rent to me, and that made me their landlord. Not her. Nobody signed her petition. Some even slammed the door in her face. One neighbor handed her a candy cane and said, "Tell Santa you've been bad." But I wasn't done. Remember that HOA community center? The one I shut the power off on? I turned it into a holiday rental. Yeah, fully remodeled it, hung up a HOA free zone sign, and listed it on Airbnb as the Freedom Cabin. Bookings shot up. People came just to hear the story. The best part? Karen's house sat directly across from it. She had to watch people laughing, decorating, and celebrating every single night, right under bright flashing lights she couldn't turn off. But wait, it gets better. With the HOA dissolved and no more central fees, I offered residents a new deal. I'd handle trash pickup, snow removal, and yard services, all bundled into rent, which was still cheaper than what the HOA used to charge. I became their landlord, service provider, and protector from HOA nonsense. People loved it. Karen? She had no choice. Her home was technically still under the original lease, and to stay on the land, she had to sign my contract, just like everyone else. When she came to my door, it was the first time I saw her without the clipboard. She looked tired, angry, but beaten. "I'm not signing," she muttered. I smiled. "Then you can move." She stared. "You can't be serious." "Totally serious. This neighborhood is HOA free now. It runs on Christmas lights and logic." 1 week later, Karen signed the contract. Monthly rent, $1,200, due on the 1st. And just for fun, I added a small clause in her lease. Tenant agrees to display at least one outdoor holiday decoration during the December season. Now, every year, like clockwork, Karen puts a tiny wreath on her door. It's crooked, it's sad, but it's there. And every time I walk past, holding cocoa and watching lights blink around the neighborhood, I smile, because the HOA tried to evict me over a reindeer. And now, they pay me rent every month.